Okay, here it is. The time you've been waiting for. As a buyer, you have 10 things to really focus on if you're in a position to purchase a home. And most of them are good for you. As a buyer, it's been extremely rough, really for the better part of my career, right? We've had an extreme seller's market the last 3 or 4 years. But ultimately, since, 12 years ago, the market has been very much a seller's focused side, right? Maybe not 5-10 offers, but a short amount of days on market, you're under contract, you're full price, you're all the things. And now buyers have a little more opportunity. Things have changed a bit. If you don't know, I'm Jeremy Kane. I've helped over 500 people buy and sell real estate. This is an absolute mission for me to help people build wealth through real estate, as I have, purchasing my first home at 19. I'm helping some people at 50 purchase their first home and do the same thing that I have helped myself and hundreds of other people do. So if you need anything like that, or that sounds like you, whether it's your first home or your fifth home, I'd be happy to have a conversation with you and walk you through the steps of how it is to work with me. So 303-210-0378. But let's get right to this. The 10 things that you need to know as a buyer in our market. And I am super pumped about this because it's absolutely game changing when you really step back and you think about what is going on. So I have a little slide deck that we're going to talk through here. But yeah, let's get right to it. So first and foremost, inventory. Inventory is up 14% year over year. Days on market is 42. There was times where the days on market approached 4 to 6 days during the COVID year. So this is absolutely incredible and needs to be a piece of the conversation, right? A lot of times, boots on the ground, I'm hearing, well, we actually have a chance to think about the house before we go and put an offer in, and we probably don't have to put an offer in for 100,000 over asking and all the things, right? So this is huge. And so if you're really focused on this and you're really thinking about this, if a home has been sitting on the market for 30 plus days, think about the willingness of that buyer or that seller to negotiate with you and for you to get a quote unquote deal, whether that's a concession, seller paid concessions for rate buy downs and things like that. So the very thing that you're worried about in that high interest rate can be bought down. And in a lot of cases, if a home's been sitting on the market, by the seller, right? So you have 30 at the 30-day mark, I would say even a little sooner, you have an opportunity where these sellers are like, what's going on? The real estate market's changed. Is the market crashing? And they're more willing to work with you because they're sick of having people come in and out of their house. They're sick of having to live a clean, no dishes, vacuumed home lifestyle, because we all know there's very few of us that actually live that way. And they are ready to make a deal. So that's absolutely incredible when you really think about it, right? So this home sitting longer give you the negotiating advantage. If you think about this kind of slide breaks down from 1 to 10 days, the seller often will accept only a full price offer. Not to say that if it's overpriced, you shouldn't put one in if there's not a competing offer, but this is kind of where it's at, right? Days 11 through 30, minor negotiations, a little bit of leverage, a little bit of doubt creeps in, right? And then days 31 through 60, significant price flexibility likely, right? Depending on the situation. Now, I'm not saying this for every listing that's out there, but if it hits that 30-day mark, let's have a conversation. Let's see what we can do. Let's significantly approach that seller and see if we can get a significant discount, right? And obviously 60 plus days, maximum buyer advantage. And this is a place where buyers are like, well, it's been on for 30 days. What's wrong with it? The truth is that the market's different. So that's what we really need to make sure that we're focused on as we are talking about these opportunities. Right? Next thing, seller concessions are back. This is something that was, kind of poo-pooed upon at some point. The truth is that you have the opportunity to have seller concessions. The reason that these are back is because of affordability, which we'll talk about in a second. But if a seller concession can come into play and help you with, maybe something that's nearing the end of its lifespan. Maybe a furnace is getting older, it's working fine right now, it's safe, so we can get a loan. However, it's nearing the end of the lifespan. These are things that sellers are willing to work with because they are so, focused on getting the home sold. They don't have as many options. So if you're through the inspection, these things are absolutely coming to play. Concessions can be used for things that aren't completely that are in complete disrepair, and they can also be used for the mortgage rate buy down. Home warranty coverages oftentimes are able to be negotiated at inspection time, and then obviously repair credits, like I said. Now you need to be careful because this does not, lenders aren't going to say, okay, the furnace isn't working, you get a credit to fix the furnace. They don't want to lend on that. So some things at inspection do need to be fixed. However, these are opportunities for you to save and cash to close, right? Next, we'll talk about contingencies. Contingencies are no longer off the table. I mean, there was a time where we couldn't, ask for an appraisal, lowering a price at appraisal because they had 10 more offers behind us. That's been gone for quite some time. There was times where we'd have to say we wouldn't, ask for anything on inspection. I never had a deal where I said you should waive the inspection. My clients always had the inspection. At least they had the knowledge of what they were doing on the investment. But I haven't seen even a major health and safety contingency. Some of us just put them in there, but not in order to leverage a deal and get a deal done, right? And then obviously the financial contingency has always been there. But people were even pushing that, making earnest money hard after inspection and those kind of things. Not the case anymore. And then the home sale contingency. This is the one that people are still a little skeptical of, but the honest truth is the sellers are the buyers, right? So in a location, I have a listing in Castle Rock. I'm convinced that there's so many homes on the market. All of those sellers are going to buy all of those homes. But if we're sitting on our thumbs, just waiting for, something to happen, well, no domino is going to fall. So contingencies are being, at least considered in certain time frames and things like that. So this is something to pay attention to, and obviously listen to your agent, or, if I'm your agent, we work through this. There's a strategy behind it, but we have to understand that as agents, especially, like the word contingent sale shouldn't be, shunned, because I heard a story today. One of my agents said they had an offer as a full price offer, contingent, and they didn't take it. Well, that person just went down the street, got a house that came on the next week, bigger, cheaper, and they took the contingent sale. That house is now set to close. So this is something that we really need to focus on and understand, that these contingencies are the way it had been for a long time. And just because someone has a home that they have to sell in order to pay top dollar for your home doesn't make them a bad choice. So certainly do the research and make sure everything's kosher, listing price, all of those things. But contingencies are back on the table for sure. I will say that the condo market is struggling, and the reason is the rising HOA fees. The rising HOA fees are mostly due to the rising cost of insurance. There's obviously still bad managed and, those kind of things. But this is an absolute important thing to think of, right? Because those townhomes, those condos were always, the first time home buyers, kind of into the market. And then they would appreciate, probably not as quickly, but now the affordability is really pinched, right? Because now we have the combination of higher interest rates, which are going to make that monthly payment higher. But then we also have the rising HOAs. We're seeing standard HOA $600, $700 a month because these bigger complexes have such high insurance premiums. And this isn't guaranteeing that the next hailstorm that comes through and trashes the roof is going to be something that people won't, need to have a special assessment. Make sure you have special assessment coverage on that HO6 insurance policy. Call your insurance guy. If you need a guy, Bryce Babcock's my dude. He's great at it. Reach out. and we'll get you connected. But make sure you have special assessment coverage if you're in one of these larger HOAs, and understand that these condos and townhomes, although they may be a little bit less in overall price, that $700 HOA is really diminishing any savings that you would have versus single family in most cases. So definitely something to know and consider. Insurance costs are skyrocketing across the board. This isn't just for buyers. We're up 30-40% in a lot of places. And so we need to really make sure that we are understanding that this is an additional cost, right? This is something that is coming. And the truth is, if you make a claim, you're probably okay. If you make 2 claims in 3 years, they will cancel you. I don't care who it is. Trust me, I know from experience, even though I didn't make 2 claims in 3 years, not with Bryce, by the way. But as we understand, this is just an added cost. Everything is more expensive, and insurance is certainly not late to that party. So know that these costs are all factored into your monthly payment and that escrow, and something to really consider. Right. The next thing, property tax forms should be coming out to you in the Colorado counties, and the valuations. I have heard several instances where the valuation actually went down. So I think we've maybe reached the, pinnacle of that huge climb that we've had. I will say with this caveat that last year the governor put on, some sort of, hold back or something of the taxes. So the taxes were actually cheaper than we thought they would be. If he pulls that off or that goes away, I think a lot of this valuation savings will probably be eaten up by that. So pay attention to that. You should have your tax valuation. If you need to dispute it or you don't think it's correct, please reach out to me. You have my cell phone number, or send me a DM here wherever you're watching, and we can make sure that we look at that. I'll do a full valuation against the city county records and help you understand if that's legitimate or you need to dispute it. So big time, good news with the taxes not just skyrocketing like they have forever. And the truth is, affordability is the key, right? And all I've talked about is taxes going up, high interest rates, insurance being high, all those things, right? You need to find the sweet spot. There are numbers within there that we can manipulate as far as the interest rate with seller concessions, right? Is there a different insurance policy that you can go to? Do you have a new roof and the deductible can be a little bit different for that? Those kind of things. Is it a, impact resistant roof? These are the things that we need to adjust, because we're not going to mess with insurance premiums. We don't want to have an underinsured product. We, aren't going to be able to control the HOAs because we don't have control. We can control the insurance. If you find somebody else, maybe you go to one place and hop around for a little bit and see if you can find that, sweet spot there where they want your business, so the premium's a little cheaper. And then next, we can definitely work with the rate with seller concessions or extra cash to close. Be very careful about the temporary rate. Everybody who's been in 3-2-1 buy downs and 2-1 buy downs and 1-0 buy downs and were promised that the interest rates were going down, well, they haven't done that. So those people are stuck in those higher interest rates, even though they were sold the temporary buy down product with, hopes that it would be lower. They could just refinance and it would be all hunky dory. Truth is, not so much. So make sure that you're really focused on the permanent versus temporary buy down. The lender that you're working with should be able to talk to you about your best case scenario, your best bang for your buck. But affordability is there. Can we find the sweet spot? Yes. If you're sitting there waiting for the interest rate to drop on the TV, it's probably not going to happen for a while, but we can make it drop in your scenario. So let's have a conversation and let's see if this is something we can do, right? Because the truth is, with insurance and HOAs and all of this stuff going up, your rent is also going up. So we need to have that conversation. We need to find that sweet spot. Timing is critical. This spring is different than the rest of, my career. It didn't have the major spike. We have inventory collecting instead of, falling off at this point, being completely decimated. So this is an opportunity where you can absolutely get in, right? When the interest rate comes down, it will definitely bring people to the market. Maybe it's the summer. I don't think that usually summer in Colorado isn't, the top of the market. Usually we've already hit our peak and are kind of leveling off, but you never know, right? What I do know is there's a ton of buyer pent up demand. So buyers on the sidelines, when that levee breaks, it's not going to be a positive thing. That inventory will be gone and those bidding wars will be right back. So make sure that you understand that right now could be your very best time to get exactly what you want. The house you want, you have choices. The interest rate that you want, because you can get concessions and you can get moved and out of that lease as soon as possible. So I think that sums it up, but I also want you to fully understand that we can absolutely make this happen for you. The buyer, there's never been a better time to be a buyer than right now. Yes, we've had appreciation. Yes, prices have gone up. Yes, interest rates are high, but you have a little bit of leverage that you haven't had in a long time. So if you have any questions, please reach out, let me know. I'm more than happy to help you and help you walk through this. And I will tell you 100% honesty, if you're not ready, if it's not a good time, because ultimately the only time that really matters is you. And I've helped many people, right, that have come to me and said, I want to buy a house. And I say, okay, we got to get these things in order before they go get those things, and then I help them. So if that's you, we need to have that initial conversation. Reach out, book a call in the link below, give me a call, send me a DM, whatever you need. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.